One man. Goodbye. Hello, Heisman.
20, 25, 30, 35, 40, 45, 50, 45. There goes Davis. Oh, my God. Davis is going to run it all the way back. Auburn's going to win the football game.
They give it back now to the 30. They're down to the 20. All the band is out on the field. He's going to go into the end zone.
Four-man Alabama rush. Got him. Oh, no, they didn't. Oh, my gracious.
Yep.
How about that?
Well, my goodness, we did not expect our evening to start the way it has. Garrett, when we sat down to record, we thought we were going to be just recording a Bowl Mania, talking about how we saved bowl season once again. And instead, we are kind of dealing with all this Sherrone Moore news that's taken over Twitter, taken over headlines. Sherrone Moore out at Michigan. A inappropriate relationship with a staffer. We're not going to get into all the details, but at this hour, as we're recording this, I'm sure it will be a little bit clearer in the morning when the podcast releases. But as we're recording this, Garrett, there's some disturbing rumors that he's been arrested, that he allegedly broke into this staffer's house, threatened to potentially kill that person and himself. So yeah, man, I mean, a lighthearted topic in Bowl Mania. We'll get to that in a minute, but also a reminder that like things are crazy, and sometimes college football isn't just college football as we start the show tonight.
Right. And when the news broke this afternoon, I was shocked because it didn't seem like a very smart move timeline wise, right? Like we've talked about how the coaching carousel has gone and how, man, it just seems like this is a weird time to try to fire a guy, and you could have made this decision a couple weeks ago. And then, of course, it's the for cause, and then there's rumors and leaks and everything else. And man, it went from being, and we were kind of talking about this, there were like kind of some awesome banger tweet jokes, and you kind of laughing at some stuff at first, and it immediately turns into, okay, well, this might actually be a lot more tragic than I think most of us were thinking. So definitely not going to be the one to jump and dance on the grave here. I'm not going to do that. It's not the appropriate thing, I think, especially since we're recording while a lot of this is still breaking, and
right,
like we could have new information all of a sudden and things could still develop, right? So it's a little bit of a weird damper to the beginning of the podcast, which man, it's a bummer because, and the other part of it too is, man, Michigan seemed like they had turned some stuff around this last year, and I know that it wasn't necessarily like the best year for them, but you have a pretty decent season. You're playing the Cheez-Its Bowl. It's not a terrible bowl game. They got, Bryce Underwood. He's starting to cook a little bit towards the end of the season. And there were some things really starting to go. And I really just hope this doesn't kill that Michigan program with them being so far behind the 8 ball when it comes to finding a way to replace them.
Yeah, it's a really unfortunate situation timing wise. And, we do want to be careful because this is a ongoing situation investigation. We don't fully know the details around it. And so I think we'll leave off kind of that side of it properly. I think recognizing that this is a human interest story, and there are ostensibly lives that are affected and ruined by what's been going on. And so I think we'll give the deference to that, but this is a football show. We'll set that kind of in its place and make an effort to endeavor on to talk the ramifications on the football field of this move. Michigan is up a creek without a paddle, no doubt about it. The timeline of this happening is fuzzy based on some reporting going on that maybe Michigan knew about this as early as last month, and they've been trying to figure out what on earth they were going to do. Well, while they've been twiddling their thumbs and figuring out how we're going to handle this in the public eye, Garrett, a lot of the available coaches have already been nabbed up. Coordinators are shuffling around the deck. Michigan had just made an announcement that they were retaining key members of their staff. I know some Michigan fans weren't thrilled that Wink Martindale was coming back, but for better or worse, a lot of schools had started to kind of cement their 2026 coaching plans and coaching hierarchy. We had signing day come and go. That now is completely unraveled with Moore being fired. There's a 15-day window that the transfer portal will now specifically open for Michigan players on the roster. Recruits who had signed national letters of intent are given a time to opt out of that and reconsider where they're going to go. It's a lot of chaos and upheaval at a terrible time in the calendar. As you mentioned, Michigan was preparing to go to the Citrus Bowl. That future is probably up in the air. But I think with all of that, I've also started to see some rumors that Michigan, because they took their time in November and into this early part of December, they may already have a plan in place, somebody that they could announce here in the next week or two, if some of these tweets are to be believed. And, try this name on for size. A guy coming back to the region, has had a lot of success in the Midwest, is a developer of quarterbacks. Garrett, the number one name being thrown around is one Kalen DeBoer, leaving Alabama to take over as the head coach of the Michigan Wolverines.
That would honestly, I love the fit, first of all. It'd be fantastic if they could pull it off. And also, I mean, what a move if they could pull that off to hopefully save a lot of this, right? Because it feels like at this stage in the coaching cycle, you're either looking at internal promotion, which I don't know if there's anybody in the coaching staff that inspires that kind of confidence.
Probably not.
I wouldn't think so. Or you're having to go with somebody who probably won't garner that much excitement, right? Like it's extremely likely that at this stage, that's it. So unless they have plans to go poach somebody, then that's probably, where they're going. So, I mean, man, like if you could pull off a Kalen DeBoer, I know I've seen Jed Fish got thrown out there a little bit. And that's another name that I think, honestly, I'd love for them at this stage. I mean, I think either of those would end up as big time hires for Michigan because it's a name that you recognize, it's a name that you can rely on, and it's a name that you can probably sell to the majority of your roster to stick around, right? I know that a lot of people are hoping they can make improvements on the roster going into this offseason, try to find some more playmakers to kind of help Bryce Underwood come along. I think at this phase, you're saying, hey, first off, we got to keep Bryce Underwood in the boat. Second off, we got to keep everybody else in the boat and make sure everybody's still in for next season. So yeah, it's got to be a big name. And I think DeBoer would be huge, especially with how much it seems like the reputation, not necessarily sour at Alabama, but it feels like the fuse is starting to get a little shorter. And, maybe some people are starting to say, well, hey, I thought that the post Saban era was going to be a lot rosier than this. And all you've got is a guy who almost made the playoffs last year and then did make the playoffs this year. And that certainly isn't the standard at Alabama, but I don't know, maybe they should be a little happier with it, because if they lose DeBoer at this point, then that becomes this other massive cascading problem.
Yeah, I think priority number one as far as roster retention goes is probably keeping Bryce Underwood on the team. I mean, my goodness, you signed him to an $8 million contract coming out of high school. Like, this was the biggest flip of the entire season last year, flipping him away from LSU. Obviously, he didn't look great this season, but he was a freshman quarterback starting in the Big Ten. Like, there were obviously going to be bumps in the road. I think Michigan would love to see a guy who knows what they're doing when it comes to offensive scheme and developing quarterbacks. And that is one notch in the belt of Kalen DeBoer. You mentioned the seat down in Tuscaloosa, even though he made the SEC championship game, even though he's in the college football playoff, the results have been so far what Alabama has come to expect and get to know under Nick Saban. I don't honestly think it's any real fault of Kalen DeBoer. I think there was always going to be a crashing back to earth as you take over from the greatest of all time. But every misstep that he's had has been magnified down there in Tuscaloosa. And I do wonder if this is kind of the easy eject button for DeBoer. Michigan would obviously be in a position where I don't think they would say, hey, like you can't coach the playoffs with Alabama. Like, we need you right now. I think you could probably, if Kalen would agree to go to Ann Arbor, I think they'd be flexible with letting him finish out this run with Alabama. I mean, it may end in the first round at Oklahoma if they lose 3 straight to the Sooners, but that's certainly one path. You mentioned Jed Fish as well, another offensive guy. I think the rumors all situate around the idea that Michigan is usually going to have a very good defense, right? You're probably not going to have to bring in somebody that specializes on the defensive side of the ball because defense is ingrained in this Michigan identity. The offense, though, that was quick to slip away at times, even under the Harbaugh administration, where it felt like, okay, our defense can get a stop, but we just cannot move the football. We can't develop a quarterback. That seems like a problem that has now gone and been across multiple coaching staffs. If I'm a Michigan fan, I think that's the first thing that I want addressed. And, Jed Fish would also possibly tick that box.
Yeah, I think either of those coaches would be a great choice. For me, the DeBoer possibility is probably the most intriguing because obviously, they got the Oklahoma matchup coming up.
Mm-hmm.
If he lost to Oklahoma again, you have to think they're running him out of town, right? Like they're almost like, no, here, Michigan, take him. We don't want him. And so you could see that situation. And then my other question I was starting to think about and say, hey, if DeBoer takes this job, is there any chance we get that mid-credit scene with Lane Kiffin where he decides, just kidding, I'm gonna totally jump ship and do something else, and we get Lane Kiffin the sequel and get to do that whole deal? Marty Smith's back out there, sitting at the Tuscaloosa. Hey, I'm here at Tuscaloosa waiting on Lane Kiffin to arrive. Like, or could we possibly get that lucky or unlucky, depending on how you see it?
I keep seeing that thrown around, and I cannot imagine that he would not just burn one bridge with Ole Miss, but then like 15 days later, I mean, we're what, 2 weeks past that, burn another bridge with Baton Rouge and all of Louisiana. Like, at that point, it just seems like career suicide, no matter how much you might want the Alabama job. So I can't see that necessarily happening, but we're in unprecedented times when it comes to the coaching carousel and everything else going on around college football. The fact that idea is being entertained from what we know of Lane Kiffin, like, I don't think you can ever say absolutely not, 0% chance to any rumor like that until it's officially shut down, because that's the kind of chaos that we're dealing with.
Well, and that's counting on character out of Lane Kiffin, which, I think we understand at this point that
it's a losing
maybe
bet.
Those two words are a little bit strained in the same sentence. I don't know that you can necessarily say that Lane Kiffin has incredible character.
Don't think so.
I did see, though, however, that I think Dave Portnoy had tweeted at him saying that he needed to come up to Michigan, and he was like, how about you come down to the boot? So he might really be happy down there, but there's always that thing with me. I'm saying, hey, I know that it's unlikely, but it's the funniest possible result, so I gotta hope that it happens, right? That Lane would say, hey, so I know I just did this, but I'm gonna do it again. It's only been 15 days. Get over it, right? Like, it'd be pretty crazy for him to make that move. I don't think that it happens, just to be clear, but it would be crazy, and there's a little piece of me that wants to see the chaos.
Last part on this, I think this is a good place to wrap this particular YouTube video. Do you think that Michigan will be set back 3, 4, 5 years based on what's happened today? Because that seems to be the sentiment from college football writers, from personalities on Twitter, that obviously not knowing who the head coaching hire will be is the most important ingredient here. But there does seem to be an overwhelming pessimism with the football program at Michigan going forward, at least in the next, recruiting cycle, maybe more.
Yeah, it's going to be really easy to recruit against if that's the situation. I think it entirely depends on the hire. Like, at this point in time, if you have somebody great running your program, they're going to be able to turn it around very quickly. Transfer portal is one of those things. If you can convince the right set of players, it can turn real quick. But again, the transfer portal giveth, the transfer portal taketh away. It's the whole thing of, if it's going to go that way for you, if you mess this hire up, if you completely botch it and you end up hiring, I don't want to throw any shade, but like somebody from the MAC maybe, who like they're just kind of regional and possibly available and ready to go. If that's who you end up hiring and it doesn't spark any like real interest, the transfer portal can take it away, right? It can, take all your players, take your whole roster. And then, it may not be a 3 to 4 year thing. You could be looking at this as hey, this head coach is just going to have to crash and burn. And then maybe the next guy can turn us back into a bowl team or something like that. It could get really ugly for Michigan.
Well, and, there are those frustrations in Tuscaloosa with Kalen DeBoer. There are frustrations up in Washington as well with Jed Fish. Pretty good at home, not so great on the road. I think they felt like there should have been more out of the offense, more consistently against the big-time opponents. They didn't necessarily get that in Husky land. So, you said if you don't go out and hire a great coach, like, I guess the question that we'll just have to wait and see is there a great coach to go and hire, right? Some of us, myself included, are probably higher on DeBoer than others are, but there's a lot of room for error here. And I certainly feel that the athletic department up in Ann Arbor has a lot of work to do in order to not only triage the current situation that's literally ongoing as we're recording this, but set their program up for success as well. So would love to know what the Jimmies and Joes think at 3Tech Pod. Give us your thoughts on that. Really, really messy, chaotic situation going up there in Michigan. We'll continue to watch with bated breath, just like the rest of you guys do. Now, before we get to the topic at hand, which is bringing value to bowl season, doing the top storylines from Bowl Mania, Trey's been in the lab cooking. And Garrett, he came up with a new game for the Jimmies and the Joes this offseason. It's not another pick'em league. It's not another Bowl Mania pool, although we will have that if you want to join in that. But we present to you the playoff pick six. If you're on YouTube, you can scan the QR code down below. If you're listening to the podcast, head on over to our Twitter. Right now, it's pinned to our Twitter profile. We'll be tweeting that link out as well. All you have to do, make 6 picks, 3 of them on seeds that you predict will win games, 3 other predictions as well. Very simple, very easy to do. The scoring is outlined. It's a super simple process. The winner of our playoff pick 6 is taking home a $50 home field apparel gift card, Garrett. Exciting prizes for those who win are in store. We'd love to have you be a part of this. We are testing this out. We want to see if this is something that we can run every single year. Like I said, Trey's been in the lab cooking hard on it, trying to find something unique because everybody I feel like does a bowl pool. But if you want to be adventurous with us, come play the playoff pick 6. I just put in my picks a little bit ago this afternoon. We're excited to see how that runs. So feedback always appreciated. And yeah, maybe you'll find yourself winning a home field gift card. Garrett, with that in mind, let's switch to the college football NIT, which longtime listeners of this show will remember all the way back in, I think it was episode 260 last December. Trey and I sat down. We saved bowl season. That's literally the name of the YouTube video, of the podcast. If you want to go back and listen retroactively, we did in preparation for this show. It was a really fun listen, I think. And Trey came up with this system very similar to the NIT, to the College Basketball Invitational, in answer to the question, how on earth do we save bowl season? How do we get these teams, these players, the sponsors to all work together and provide value to each other to where, hey, Notre Dame's not going 10-2 and taking their ball and going home when they don't get into the playoff. What can we do to make every team look forward to invest in that postseason appearance? Because as we all know, bowl season used to be awesome. Bowl season used to be something that we looked forward to every year. They had hype videos for bowl season. It was a lot of fun, and every team almost across the board looked forward to playing in that. So the larger explanation for this, and I know it can be hard on the podcast side, on the YouTube side, maybe a little bit easier at times, but if you want the full breakdown of this, the rationale, the bracket, all the teams included in this, our Substack will have an article with all that information. So 3techpod/Substack, you can go over, subscribe first of all if you're not subscribed and following over there. We put out a lot of great written content, but Trey spent a lot of time dialing this out. So here on this podcast, before we get into Bowl Mania, we wanted to run over kind of the details of that very quickly, give you the teams that would have been in the field this year. But first, Garrett, kind of your thoughts on this bracket, this format. Like, you weren't on that show last year. What do you think would be the result of kind of multiple other tournaments outside of the 12-team college football playoff?
I think you can incentivize stuff because if you think back to the original idea behind bowl games, it was that you had something to play for at the end of the year that you could hang your hat on and say, you know what, we accomplished something, right? You didn't just have to get voted in, before we actually played like a formal national championship game. You didn't just have to get voted by some newspaper that turns out you were the champion that year, right? You could, go and like win a bowl game, and you had a regional bowl game. I know down here it was the Cotton Bowl. It was always, Southwest Conference, Southeast Conference. You get some great matchups down there. You got A&M stuffing Bo Jackson on the goal line back in the day. It was a lot of fun. And so you'd have a lot of fun with that, regardless of whether you were competing for the, technical championship or not. And I think this recaptures it, because a lot of people say, we got too many bowl games. First off, I'm sorry you don't like football. Okay. I'm sorry that we put more football on your screen. Have fun until August. Like, what's your complaint about? But the other part of it is just, it's not that we have too many bowl games. It's that they kind of just get thrown around and over corporatized, and we don't really ever have any connection to them. It's, there's no real like, oh, this matters to my school because X, Y, or Z, right? We don't have any real connections to a lot of these bowl games anymore. And so I think setting up this type of a format, setting up a playoff bracket, something like that, I think would do a lot to try to, fix a lot of those problems. And so I love it. I personally think it's great. And another thing to kind of take a step back from it, with this bracket and with the kind of, pick six thing that we're doing, doesn't Trey just come up with some of the best ideas? I feel like if we want a real college football commissioner, my vote's going Trey's way, because he's always, he was talking about relegation before it was sexy to talk about. Like, Trey's been on top of it for a while.
He sure has. I hate that he's not able to be with us on this episode to record it and to break it down himself. But the why, the X factor to all of this was modeled off of the Players Era tournament that happens during Feast Week in college basketball season, where the tournament pays out NIL money to each team to participate. And then the more they win, the more NIL bonus they are awarded as a team. So that's kind of the incentive. If you're going, well, who cares? Why would these teams play in a bracket style format if it's not for the national championship? I think this is the Mr. Krabs money meme. And so if that's all we've got to fight with, then heck, that's what we're going to try and cook with. So college football NIT would be 24 teams. Teams must have at least 8 wins to qualify, or 7 without an FCS win if the pool dwindled to that number of teams, which last year it would have included 7-win teams. This year, I think we could have gotten away with more of those high quality teams. You would have auto bids for conference champions that did not qualify for the CFP. So Duke, congratulations. Your win actually meant something. The quarterfinals and the semifinals would use bowl games, while the previous games, the first and I think the second rounds, would be on campus. So we're not only, giving the players something to play for, but we're also giving these communities, these campuses, these fan bases something to rally around until it makes sense for the bowls to actually get involved. So he has the quarters at the Gator, the Sun, the Pop-Tarts Bowl, and the Alamo Bowl. The semifinals would be the ReliaQuest and the Citrus Bowl. And then he has the finals in Las Vegas, or a rotating bowl game and venue of choice, right? His seeding model, he based off of the college football top 25 and then to the SP plus. He would avoid conference matchups until the second round, which is something that I think we all, after this year's playoff field, were like, yeah, okay. I mean, that would be nice if we avoided conference matchups and rematches. And then, it would all center around NIL, as I mentioned. So the auto bids this year, according to Trey's numbers, Boise State, Duke, Kennesaw State, and Western Michigan would automatically be in the field. The at-large teams is where it gets really fun. You would have Notre Dame, BYU, Texas, Vanderbilt, Utah, USC, Arizona, Michigan, Virginia, Houston, Georgia Tech, Iowa, North Texas, Washington, Missouri, Tennessee, South Florida, SMU, Louisville, and Illinois. I know it's a lot of teams. Again, if you want to go actually like visually digest all of this, our Substack will have all of that. But Garrett, I mean, that's a loaded slate of teams that I would love to see play in a tournament style format.
Well, and it just reopens it for so many different reasons, right? Like, I know that one of the complaints about that could be that, those on-campus games, those are happening too late into a semester. All the students are going home. Sure. Number one, like, we wouldn't have driven back for one of those games, right? Like, it's a little bit of a drive, but you hop in the car, you hang out with your buddies, you do one more little weekend away to see that last game. It also, if you're having trouble selling tickets, it kind of brings the price point down for the average fan who's getting priced out of so many games right now.
Good point.
It would be really, really nice for, a little holiday tradition, right? Get you in December and you're finally getting to go to a game with your kids because we made this, this NIT tournament type of thing. So it's really, really cool. I love a lot of what this is. Obviously, I love a lot of the spectacle of these bowl games as well. Like if you're in the Pop-Tarts Bowl part of the bracket, it's not fun to be in the Pop-Tarts Bowl. That's one of those like, hey, if I'm ever going to have a team with a down year, I really want to check that one off my box. I'd love to have a Pop-Tarts Bowl in a year where my team doesn't make the playoff. But yeah, it's really fun. And again, like if this is something where you're like, why are we trying to do this? This is dumb, blah, blah, blah. Again, I'm sorry that you hate football. I don't know how else to say it. Just watch football. This is fun. It's really cool that we have automatic qualifiers for it. I love some of the matchups. It's just really cool.
Well, and to those naysayers, which I'm sure there are some, especially in the YouTube comments, look, come up with a better idea, right? Like college football is dying. It is as it currently exists. I mean, Utah just became the first team to ink a deal with a private equity firm, right? $500 million to own a minority stake in their athletic department. They will tangibly be involved in the decision-making process across a wide array of subjects with the football team, right? It's over. College sports are over. This is going to become a private equity game. We're moving towards a super league with college football. At this point, I'd rather just have the Band-Aid ripped off. But in the interim, let us dream, right? While we've got the system in place, you can say that's a dumb idea or, offer suggestions. But what we have right now doesn't work. When you have a 10-2 Notre Dame team saying, yeah, screw this, we're going home, we're not going to play. And given the success of the Players Era tournament, we just had one data point when Trey proposed this last year, almost 100 episodes ago. But now we've seen two tournaments out there in Vegas on the West Coast over Thanksgiving that have done tremendous numbers. The TV numbers have been great. The teams have loved it. The players have loved it. The coaches have loved it. The fans have loved it. Like, I don't think there's really a downside if any of this were to be implemented. So, but then again, it's open for discussion. If you have a better idea, if you want to talk more about the details, write it in the comments. We would be absolutely curious to hear what your take on all of this is and how you would improve the postseason.
Well, one thought about this too, if you really want to spice it up, how about you take whatever the championship game is in this one and you put it in the same weekend in the same city as the national championship game, right? Go stick this game on Friday night. And, if it's this year in Miami or whatever, and go make a whole weekend out of it, right? Put 4 fan bases in the same city. You're telling me you can't sell the hotels of whoever's going to want this one on that one and all the nightlife and everybody else. You get one of these games on Friday, you get one of these games on Monday. It'd just be a fun time. Like you could really sell it as a whole week, right? We have like the NBA All-Star weekends and, we got like the whole week for the MLB All-Star game. And so you can do these types of events where you got multiple different things going on. I think that could be another way that you spruce it up a little bit too.
Well, I think it's a good idea. Kind of make an F1 week out of it, right?
Yeah,
you got the junior circuits that go before that. Like that would be a really fun week. I think the sports media would absolutely be in love with that idea.
Well, and just the thought of saying that Notre Dame and Texas are playing in the junior college football championship is kind of a funny prospect. That'd be a funny idea.
Listen, Texas proudly hung an NIT banner when they won that in basketball a couple of years ago. So,
they should. You won something and you should put, some kind of marker up that you did it.
Yeah, there you go. All right. So that's the college football NIT. Again, love it, hate it, somewhere in between. Let us know your thoughts. Garrett, let's move into the Bowl Mania guide. We have a entire written preview for bowl season once again that will be out on our Substack. It probably won't be out quite as this episode's released. So if you're listening to it first thing in the morning, which I know so many of you guys do, we thank you for that. Give it just a couple hours. And if you're subscribed to the Substack, you'll get a notification when it goes live. We'll also tweet it out. But very similar to last year, Garrett, there's so many bowl games. The transfer portal isn't open yet. It opens January 2nd. And so while nobody is officially in the portal, you have a bunch of players that are intending to go into the portal. Although I will say, with the kind of prevalence now of multi-year NIL deals being signed by a variety of programs, I don't think it's been quite the tidal wave of players going into the portal well before it even opens that we've seen in years past. So that makes the rosters a little bit uncertain. There will be more that go in, but we just don't have all that data available to us right now. So instead of previewing every single game in deep dive fashion, we want to pick out the best storylines. And, Stats of War, Parker, friend of the pod, put out a tweet the other day that was kind of like his vibes meter, basically the best bowl games based off of vibes. I think that's a great way to look at it. That's kind of what we've replicated these last couple of years by doing the Bowl Mania storyline. So, Garrett, I'll kick it to you. I mean, it starts Saturday, December 13th with the Bucked Up LA Bowl hosted by Gronk, the longest title you could ask for. Boise State and Washington. That is kind of a banger of a bowl game that we get right out of the gate.
Yeah, and it's crazy, too, because you get Washington, who's a known commodity. Everybody knows Washington. They were just in the championship game a couple years ago. And, speaking of teams that have made the playoffs recently, also Boise State. So it's maybe neither of their best years, both of them maybe having a little bit of a down year to what their expectations could be, but pretty good. I think these are a couple of fun offenses, and I think this could be a really fun matchup here. Obviously, with a bucked up LA Gronk, the whole shebang, like it's a little bit of a spectacle, so you don't really have to do so much of the work, and that's going to be a big thing for me in a lot of these bowl games is the actual spectacle of the whole thing. But it should be a fun game. I'm really enjoying this one. Feel like Washington wins, right? I mean, I feel like that's probably what happens here.
Yeah, Maddox Madsen is back from injury. If you didn't know, won the Mountain West Conference Championship, so 3 years in a row for the Broncos. They also have one of the nation's best rushing attacks, but Washington is elite, top 20 in the country at stopping the run. So I do lean Washington in that regard, but should be a very, very interesting game. And it's a standalone game, Saturday, December 13th. It is by its lonesome. We don't get another bowl game for 2 more days until Tuesday, when you've got the Salute to Veterans Bowl with Troy and Jacksonville State. But let's go, Garrett, to a first ever bowl game, the Xbox Bowl. Let's talk Ford Center at the Star, a game that we will be at, by the way, credentialed for the Star in Frisco. Missouri State and Arkansas State. The Bears and Missouri State are playing in their first ever bowl game. They actually, Trey and I had kind of like a unofficial bet, I guess, during our Conference USA preview and predictions. He was riding with Delaware. I was riding with Missouri State. Missouri State clipped Delaware by a game, so I'll pat myself on the back for that again. But this will be a really interesting bowl game. 2 teams that I think still have quite a bit to play for. A winning season for Arkansas State and Butch Jones, an 8-win season in their first year in the FBS for Missouri State. I'll tell you this. I think it's going to be probably a close game because Missouri State's Missouri State's defense statistically not very good, giving up nearly 30 points a game. Arkansas State's offense has struggled to be consistent, but maybe they find a way to get points up on the board against a defense that's been a little porous. I just, in the preview, I just went with the team that I thought was better. I'm going to take Missouri State to win this one, but probably a low confidence pick if you're doing a Bowl Mania pick 'em.
Yeah, this game is truly going to answer the question, what happens when a stoppable force meets a movable object? And
yeah,
I'm very excited to see what the answer to that question is. I also really like this just in terms of location. I know it's not like between the 2 schools, but it's a close enough drive for both of these schools to really make a trip to this one. Being in Frisco, it's not a super long drive. It'll be a little bit more of a trip from Missouri State, but should be doable for both fan bases to get out there, and a stage that I think both fan bases haven't quite been to at this point. So I'm excited for both of these teams, both of these programs to get to show out a little bit, and I'm pumped that we're going to have some folks in attendance for that one. That'll be kind of fun for us to be there.
Should be a really, really fun game. Also, shout out to Delaware. They're playing in the 68 Ventures Bowl against Louisiana. Winner of that game secures a winning season at 7-6. So we're rooting for the Blue Hens, rooting for the Bears this bowl season. Garrett, let's go to Myrtle Beach. Talking about vibes. How about 2 conference champions playing on the teal turf? That just sounds like a whole lot of fun.
You said let's go to Myrtle Beach, and I was like, "Oh, Mitch, come on, let's go, man! Little boys trip out to the nice part of the country this time."
That's right. Bring our golf clubs,
yeah, come on, be a nice time. No, I'm excited about this. I love. Obviously, I'm a little bit more partial to some of the MAC teams. Just kind of love what the MAC is. So, Western Michigan been a really fun story. Kind of heartbreaking to watch them knock off Miami, Ohio. A little bit of my sort of pet team there, but it's been a fun team. It's been a fun, year for them. And obviously with them being MAC champions, I'm pumped that they get this chance to play in this bowl game and really kind of show out against another really good team in Kennesaw State, who I'll put my hand up on this one. Didn't see them having the year that they had at all. But yeah, good for them. There's a lot of times that we say like, oh, this is like a feel good story, right? And that typically means that they're not very good. But this is one of those feel goods where I'm like, hey, both of these teams are actually pretty solid this year, and I feel good for both of them.
Yeah, the Owls 2-10 last year, fired their head coach, hired Jerry Mack. It was kind of a little bit of a scandalous move because we all assumed that Kennesaw State knew they were going to be, not very good in their first year. Turns out they knew what they were doing, though. Jerry Mack leads them to a 9-3 regular season. They win the Conference USA Championship. They actually just signed Jerry Mack to a 6-year extension. So it's all coming up Owls right now. The vibes are going to be immaculate between these two teams. Kennesaw State has a really explosive offense. Western Michigan has hung their hat on defense this year, so I think you're going to have some good on good there. I'll tell you this. I think defense has a better chance of traveling, and I tend to trust maybe some of the pieces that Western Michigan has in place, but I also followed the same logic for the Conference USA Championship, and Kennesaw State beat Jacksonville State, not comfortably necessarily, close game on the scoreboard, but that was back-to-back games against the Gamecocks where Kennesaw State had found ways to score, had found ways to move the ball. It's not profitable this year betting against Kennesaw State. I think I'm going to slightly do it again. I'll take Western Michigan, low confidence. But boy, if Kennesaw State can reel off 11 wins this year, that's one of the best stories in the sport.
Yeah, that would be incredible to think about. I think I'm with you on Western Michigan, though. I like the defense, especially not just on the road, like in a road environment type thing, but also after a little bit of a layoff, right? Like I think it's a little bit easier to find your rhythm back on defense, rely on the other team to make some mistakes, just rally to the ball, do your thing, as opposed to get back in a groove on offense after a little bit of a layoff. So I think I'm with you on that. I think I'm going to go Western Michigan here.
Where else should we go next? Let's go to the next week. Let's go Tuesday, December 23rd for the Bush's Boca Raton Bowl of Beans. Yes, that is the real name of this bowl game. 8-4 Toledo, 8-4 Louisville. Pop-Tarts Bowl has been what are they calling themselves? The People's National Championship. I feel like this was a strong counterpunch, though, from the marketing team at Bush's.
We're living in a beautiful age of bowl games between, you got the Cheez-Its Bowl, the Pop-Tarts Bowl. You still got Duke's Mayo, which I feel like was kind of the first of these types of bowl games. And now we got you want to call it the Bush's Baked Beans Bowl, but it's the Bush's, and then you do the bowl name, and then it's of beans, which I just got to respect him for making sure that Bowl of Beans was in the title there. It's an incredible job on the marketing side of it. The game should be fun as well. I feel like this one just entirely depends on if Louisville decides to show up this time. Louisville's shown up and looked fantastic in games, and I'll continue to clown them for it. But that game against Clemson and the way that ended, I wanted to just rip my eyes out. I know I was clowning people for saying that, I'm sorry that you don't like watching football. That night made me question if I liked watching football because, and I ultimately came to the conclusion that wasn't football because I don't know what that was, but it definitely wasn't football. If they show up, they should be able to win pretty comfortably over Toledo, but that is a huge if in my book.
Yeah, Jason Candle out the door to UConn. So Toledo will have an interim coaching staff there. Louisville, we'll see who suits up for this game. You mentioned that 3-game losing streak that they fell on hard times. Cal, Clemson, at SMU. Ugly football from Jeff Brom's crew. Now they beat the brakes off Kentucky to finish the year, so maybe they've got a little bit more going for them here at the end of the year. I know 9 wins would be a really nice season at Louisville, right? Some disappointment. You fell short of perceived expectations when you were 7-1 coming off a win at Miami, but all things considered, a 9-win season, nothing to smirk at for sure. So I'll take Louisville in that one. Let's go to the Christmas Eve game. And I feel like a lot of people, I hear 2 different crowds. One crowd that is busy, with church, with family, dinner, etc., never even thinks about turning this game on. There's the other half, because this game kicks off, I think it's 7 p.m. It's an earlier game out on the Big Island. That after you wrap up dinner, maybe you go to Christmas Eve service a little bit earlier, 3 o'clock, 4 o'clock, something like that. You wrap up dinner. Everybody's sitting around. Maybe you've opened the stockings. You're just kind of enjoying time as a family. If you don't put It's a Wonderful Life on automatically, Can I interest you in 7-5 Cal and 8-4 Hawaii? Because Garrett, there's not going to be a shred of defense played in this one. You like points, you're going to find it on Christmas Eve.
And that's the beautiful part about this. Also, I got to take a little bit of a hold on a sec. If you're watching It's a Wonderful Life on Christmas Eve, you're just trying to have a sad time. That movie's like depressed. It has a great end, but
yeah, but it's always on NBC.
That's fair. I just feel like I always just sob when I watch that movie. I'm like, man, he's over here just really going through it, man. I feel so bad for George Bailey.
I'm kind of with you.
We're a white Christmas family at the Christmas Eve, kind of. That's a good, wholesome, cheerful way to finish it off a little bit nicer. Nobody's trying to, possibly end it all. So, but no reason to if you're watching this bowl game, because it's absolutely incredible. I love this matchup. Cal has been a fun team this year. And I know what I just said. Fun does not mean good. They're a very fun team. They've not been a very good team, but they've had some incredible moments. And I am really excited to see if that can travel out to Hawaii. Obviously, that's kind of a difficult travel. From Cal, it's a little bit easier because you're already out there a little bit. Mm-hmm. It's not like they're, Rutgers having to make the trip across the country, then across the ocean. So should be a fun one. And I mean, you're right, there will be so many points in this game, and it should just be a nice little fun electric one that you can kind of keep on like the tablet or something. You can kind of keep it over here. You got the Christmas movie on the big screen, you got your tablet over here, and every time you look down, you're like, oh, touchdown Cal, what do you know?
Yeah, Timmy Chang has done an amazing job this season. We wondered when we went through the conference preview, I think Trey architected that one. He wondered if this was the breakout year for Timmy Chang's group, not necessarily because the offense was going to do anything spectacular, although they did. Shout out to Micah Aliato, shout out to the Tokyo Toe, being one of the best kickers in all of college football. But the defense took a huge step forward as well. They were a top 60 defense this year. That was really the missing piece at the end of the day, was the offense could only do so much, but the defense couldn't stop a nosebleed. They found some of those athletes through the portal. Some of the high school recruiting started to pay dividends, and they were in the conversation for a Mountain West championship. So a great season for Hawaii. Tosh Lapoy comes over from Oregon as a defensive coordinator. He'll take over now at Cal, where he played in college. He kept JKS on the roster, basically flew from Oregon, had a press conference, had to do signing day, and then got on I don't know if it was a red eye, got on a flight, flew to the Big Island to meet with JKS and his family to say, listen, priority number one is keeping you at Berkeley. And he's in the boat for next year. One of the best quarterbacks, emerging new quarterbacks in the country, will stay at Cal. It's a huge win for Lapoy and his staff going forward next year. So, I don't know what Cal musters to finish this year. I think their offense is going to be pretty good. Defense can't stop anybody, but we'll see. We'll see. That should be a really interesting game. We got, who was it last year? Buffalo, and who did Buffalo beat last year in like 5 overtimes?
I cannot remember. Yeah, I know what you're talking about, but man, I cannot remember. Another thing on that, though, I wanted to point out that I've thought this a couple times. I love how many coaches are going back to the alma maters and are just kind of running that. It's been a little bit of a trend recently, think about like at Georgia Tech and at Arizona State and some of those where it's like, hey, it's just a guy coming back to a school. But like, you can also look now at, like Lapoy, but also like Colin Klein getting to go to Kansas State. There's just, I think it's fun in today's day and age when we're looking at guys, almost mercenary, in the portal type of situation. You can pull a player for, just enough of an NIL check. It's cool to see the programs run by guys who legitimately care about the alma mater. It's a cool thing.
Wrong Bulls. It was South Florida that beat San Jose State in 5 overtimes last year. That game, I distinctly remember going down to the bedroom that we have at our in-laws' house up in Des Moines and getting to catch like the last bit of the fourth quarter, all the overtimes as we got ready for bed night before Christmas. It was fantastic.
That's a fun time
in the night. Yeah. All right, let's keep moving on down. Special shout out to the Serve Pro First Responders Bowl. We're waiting to see if we're going to be in attendance for that one. Florida International, UTSA, great season from FIU. It was a program that just had not had any sort of success in recent seasons. It's their first winning season since 2018. I think they're well onto the launching pad for 2026. We'll see about UTSA, man. I mean, they were like juggernauts in the Triangle of Toughness. They sucked once they went on the road. I don't know what to expect in this one. I took FIU low confidence, but really wanted to make sure we shouted out the Panthers. Next day, though, is December 27th, the Go Bowling Military Bowl, Pittsburgh and East Carolina. And I highlighted this one for two reasons. One, no quarter. Big ECU fan here. I know they lost both their coordinators. Blake Harrell, though, has to be said. Tremendous job in year one, full year one at the helm, 8-4. They were right there in the back of the conversation for an American championship berth if things had gone their way. But I am excited to see how the Pirates keep moving forward. They're taking on a Pittsburgh team, though, that, Garrett, I don't know if this is a must-win game for them or not. That didn't work out so great as they got bludgeoned by Miami. But it should be a very entertaining game. Two kind of regional opponents against each other. Good athletes on both sides. If East Carolina can deal with the Pittsburgh pass rush, I think this is another game where you can expect a lot of points.
Yeah, I was going to say it's not a conference game, so I don't know if it's an exact, must win. I don't know how they're getting up for this one, but
sorry, Pitt fans.
That might be a little bit of a tough one. And sorry, it's low hanging fruit, but blame your coach. I don't know what else to tell you, man. I think that East Carolina can make it fun. I don't think that it'll necessarily be close by the end of it because I just think Pitt is a kind of head and shoulders better team, and so I think that they'll find a way. But if you're not going to get up for it, then I don't know what to tell you, man. Like, East Carolina is going to come out with their hair on fire. I think they're going to be really excited. So should be fun. Should be at least a good way to start your day.
1 hour later, it will be going kind of concurrent with each other. Can I interest you in the Bad Boy Mowers Pinstripe Bowl, where I have two questions for you. Number one, Garrett, when you mow your yard, do you mow with an attitude? And number two, did you expect Clemson and Penn State to play in the postseason? Because I sure did, just not in the Pinstripe Bowl.
Yeah, if you told me this was the matchup, I would have been shocked. You'd be like, hey, I'm just going to let you know, one of these first games, Clemson, Penn State, I'm like, ooh, boy, one of them drew a bad draw. If this is the first game of the – wait, what? Oh, my gosh. This is not it. By the way, mowing with an attitude, that's gotten me in trouble a couple of times. I kind of miss spots, and then I'll kind of go over the sprinkler head. I didn't realize it didn't go down. So I've learned not to mow with an attitude. I love Bad Boy Mowers, don't get me wrong, but I learned to not mow with the attitude. Man, what a disappointing year for both of these teams. I feel like everybody who goes to this game, I feel like it's going to be almost like the sad off where it's like, the Clemson fans can be over here like, oh, man, we're losing. It's a shame, man. We're just a terrible team. And Penn State's like, no, we're losing because we're even worse. It's even the worst team than y'all. And combine that with some of the Penn State coaching drama. Like it's just a lot of sad in the stadium. They're not even playing it at a football field. And so there's going to be some fan like sitting way out, like, down the third base line all the way off in the distance. Who's going to be sitting there like, hey, I think I can barely see the teams that I thought were going to be really good this year. And it turns out they really weren't. So just the sad bowl. It should be the Sad Boy Mowers, not to defame the Bad Boy Mowers company, but it should be the Sad Boy Mowers after Clemson and Penn State are there.
Well, and it's always terrible weather too. Between this and the Fenway Bowl, which is a couple hours later, that's UConn and Army. Like playing these games in baseball stadiums in the Northeast, like the turf conditions are terrible. The weather's sloppy. The football is atrocious. Like I do think when one of my other gripes with bowl season is we play in all of these neutral venues that we get like really terrible conditions, if turf is going to be an issue, if weather is going to be an issue, I understand wanting to have a bowl game in a snowy wonderland, right? Like that I'm in on. But when the turf is coming up every time a player plants, like, then I'm wondering what on earth we're doing. So I think we got to get to the bottom of that.
Did we not have a football stadium in a 50-mile vicinity that could have done it? Like, I understand, like, the idea behind the Pinstripe Bowl is that you get to play it in Yankee Stadium. Cool, I guess. I don't know, man. I feel like there's got to be a football stadium somewhere with more of a field set for football. Isn't that like a big problem with what the Raiders would do for a little while there, where they're playing in a baseball stadium and so they'd like run over the dirt and they'd get injuries and stuff? Like, why are we doing this?
That was an interesting time.
It's
my formative childhood years.
Like, why are we doing this in the Big 2-5?
Yeah. We mentioned UConn Army in the Fenway Bowl. That'll be a little bit later that day. I think the prize bowl game of that Saturday is the Pop-Tarts Bowl. Obviously, we mentioned the People's National Championship, Georgia Tech 9-3, BYU 11-2. That's a 2:30 game on ABC. Should be a lot of fun. I wonder if the rest gives Georgia Tech a legitimate chance to come back and win. We made all the broken down car jokes. We knew that Georgia Tech was they were out of gas. They weren't healthy enough to compete at the very end of the year to win an ACC championship, to beat Georgia. Maybe now, though, there's a little bit of extra time that's gone along. And I think it's a decent matchup as long as they can defend the run against BYU. Like, Haynes King's the better quarterback. I'm assuming he's going to play. That'll be his final game of his college career. They've got the better offense. BYU certainly has the better defense, but we've seen Georgia Tech, when they've got some life in the battery, be able to take down teams with decent defenses.
Yeah, and they're certainly capable. For me, I've got an interesting one on this where I'm sitting and thinking, okay, so BYU feels like they got snubbed of a playoff berth. No, last time a team that feels like they got snubbed of a playoff berth played a team from Georgia, that would have been that Florida State team that got smoked. So I hope that they're looking at that one and realizing they got to find a way to show up. Obviously, their quarterback should be back, so that's good. But yeah, I think BYU is the better team. I'd put them there just by a little bit because I do think this is actually a really good matchup, and it should be nice and physical. It'll be warm. It'll be, Orlando's a great location for this one to be able to play this one in good weather. If we're lucky, it'll rain. I'm begging for one of those kind of like warm rains and it's getting sloppy and there's weird fumbles and all that stuff. That would just make my entire afternoon, and that might make the entire weekend for me. So having a good time with that one. I think I lean BYU. But sure. Man, there's just something about that game where I feel like Haynes King is going to go out like a champ and put on the masterful performance. There's an actual chance that maybe Haynes King does what he did when we were in attendance for that the state championship game all those years ago.
That's right.
And he looks like the quarterback we were all hoping he could have been all these years. Puts on a masterful performance, goes out like an absolute champion. I'm almost rooting for that. So I think I'm picking BYU, but I'm gonna root for the Rick for one more time. Let's roll with Georgia Tech one more time and hope that he can get it done.
I'm right there with you. We got to go out the right way with our boy Haynes. I'm right there with you. Other games that day: Snoop Dogg Arizona Bowl, Ileta New Mexico Bowl. That's San Diego State North Texas. I don't know who's going to be playing in that game for North Texas. Eric Morris has already gone up to Stillwater, so we'll see. I'm sure Neil Brown will have an interview, the new head coach at UNT. But let's talk TaxSlayer Gator Bowl, Virginia, Missouri, because it is. I think after this game, we're going to be head and hands going, Virginia was really one play away from making the college football playoff. And that's not to be disrespectful to Virginia. I really don't mean that. But they coasted off the back of a really easy schedule, right? They took care of business where they needed to. Hat tip to them. But when they needed to be a championship caliber team, they couldn't beat 7-5 Duke. And now they've got to take on a team that was really a quarterback injury away in Missouri from being another 10-win team in the SEC. Like, I just don't really see a way that this goes Virginia's way. If you are looking for the Cavs side of things, it's that their defense has been just as good, if not a little bit better, than Missouri's across the course of their season. Lesser opponents, but they've had statistically a very, very solid defense, specifically when it comes to defending the rush, which is, basically how Missouri has to move the ball.
And that's going to be the big one too. And I'm really curious about opt-outs in this one because I think personnel is going to be the story here, right? If you have, the same personnel on defense that Missouri has had this entire season, I actually think that Virginia is going to have a really hard time scoring at all. Flip side of that one is, what does it look like for the Mizzou offense when you're out there? I know that, hopefully they got the full stable of running backs there, but I have no idea who's going to be available, who's going to be sitting one out because their agent told them something stupid or whatever. But I think I want to go Missouri in this one. I think they're the better team. I think they're going to be more physical. And also think if you're just looking at who's going to be a little bit more motivated here, Virginia feels like they're just slumping into this one. Whereas I think Missouri, you can kind of convince them to get up for this one and get excited about this one. It's going to be maybe some younger guys who are going to get a chance to play too. So definitely like Missouri in this one with a little bit more passion.
Yeah, I have a hard time thinking that Virginia rallies from you're a play away, a drive away from going to the college football playoff.
And I mean, you looked at the way that they walked off the field.
Yeah.
it was just so dejected. I felt bad for him. I mean, like, it was the fun outcome, and I was like thrilled that Duke won because it was the chaos outcome. But then I was immediately like, like you see them holding their heads low, and they got their head in their hands, and they're starting to do that thing, and I felt so bad for them. But yeah, just a tough scene there for Virginia. Just can't see a way that they get up for this one.
Next up on the list, well, not a highlighted bowl game in our notes, but the Kinder's Texas Bowl. LSU right back in the Texas Bowl. It's becoming a little bit of a tradition, I think, which our friends in Baton Rouge do not like. I do have to shout out Houston. Willie Fritz going 9-3 with a Cougars team who had literally the 133rd ranked offense last year. There were only 134 teams in FBS last year, and they improve drastically, all the way up to 65th in offense this year. The defense, even losing Sheil Woods, the defensive coordinator at Texas Tech, very, very solid once again. Top 40 scoring defense there. And, a 10-win season would be monumental given everything that they accomplished on the field. Connor Wegman's coming back. They've got a 5-star quarterback, the best quarterback in the cycle is going to Houston, so he'll get to sit for a year and then probably take over. There's a lot going for the Cougars, and I really want to pick them. But I also think we watched a dejected, mostly transfer portal LSU team go to the Texas Bowl last year against Baylor, and they waxed the Bears 7 ways to Sunday.
Yeah, it's tough to figure this one out. I think this LSU team is worse than the one last year that went to the Texas Bowl. I think, and they're just so down, right? And you can almost make the case that they don't really want to be here in any real way, right? Like, obviously, I don't think LSU fans are thrilled about Texas Bowl again, right? I don't think you can get excited about it that many years in a row. But yeah, I just think, especially with everything that went on with Lane, and they got this like new era coming in, and I'm sure there's going to be some transfer portal players that get announced that are figuring out deals and everything else, even though they're technically not open, and then whatever. But I'm sure that there'll be lots of noise around this program that'll have LSU fans looking past this game and saying, yeah, we can win it, cool, whatever, I don't really care that much. Meanwhile, you got Houston on the other side of this, basically playing this one in their backyard, getting to, hopefully show out in their home city and show out in front of a bunch of fans. And so I think this one probably goes Houston's way, but yeah, I mean, what are you supposed to say? Like, it's the Texas Bowl, weird stuff happens. I lean Houston, but I have no confidence in that one.
Yeah. 2 more bowl games that I've got highlighted in our notes. The Valero Alamo Bowl, TCU and USC, another like no defense special. I also have to highlight this because TCU is back in the Alamo Bowl, the site of the greatest postseason comeback in college football history, down 31-0 at the break to Oregon, and they storm back to win that game. So, that's a fun side story. I think points are going to be just all over the place. USC's defense statistically has been pretty good, but if you've watched them on the field, they've been kind of inconsistent at best. I know, Kendall Briles just left for South Carolina, so they're without their offensive coordinator in Fort Worth, but still, Josh Hoover, one last game. That offense has been dangerous at times. USC's offense we know has been dangerous, but you're also counting on their defense standing up to project USC winning this comfortably. One stat that I kind of hung my hat on for why I think TCU can keep this close, they're one of the better teams in the country at converting third downs. They're 23rd in the country, and the Trojans pass rush has simply been inconsistent. It's a top 40 unit overall, but they've kind of stacked some of those sacks in specific games. So if Hoover and the boys can keep the ball moving, I think this is uncomfortable late for USC, but I also find myself going like, Lincoln, dude, like it would be inexcusable for you to not finish this year with 10 wins. And that's kind of why I'm like hesitant. Like it's Lincoln Riley versus expectations.
I'm going to just pick TCU off of that fact alone. I just don't trust Lincoln Riley to get it done. I don't necessarily love TCU as a team. The defense has been something. I guess technically they have a defense, but it hasn't been that good. I just don't think that this is a team I can trust to go on the road and do anything here in the state of Texas. And USC, they can kind of get it done over on that coast. Then they kind of come this direction, don't quite get it done. And you're right. Like their defense has performed well in very specific matchups. It seems like if they play a team with a bad offense, not even a bad team, it's just going to be a bad offense. that defense can shine. This is not a bad offense for TCU. This is a very good offense. I think I'm going to pick TCU and just roll with them because, and that's also another one. I love the Alamo Bowl. I think it's such a fun one. I love the stadium. I love the Alamo Dome. I got great memories watching state championship games there when I was a kid. So
Sure.
I just love this game, and I'm definitely tuned into this one. This one's always one of my favorite bowl games.
Last game that I had kind of circled in my notes, the ReliaQuest Bowl, Vanderbilt 10-2, Iowa 8-4, Diego Pavi's last ride. It's been an amazing run that he's had over these last couple of years. He will be in New York for the Heisman ceremony. It kind of seems like maybe it's between him and Fernando Mendoza, depending on where you look. But certainly one of the more fascinating, unique, entertaining careers. I mean, insert the adjective here. But this is a matchup where I think Trey he wrote the preview for this one. He really leans Vanderbilt. I tend to lean Vanderbilt pretty heavily too. Iowa's been really bad in these bowl games. It's like death, taxes, Iowa going to Tampa or Orlando to play in a bowl game, and then they lose. And typically the lack of the offense has been what's hurt them. I think this Vanderbilt defensive line has showed that they can defend the run, and specifically that they can defend against a mobile quarterback. That's kind of Iowa's offense this year. It's just Mark Gronowski left, Mark Gronowski right.
Yeah, and it's going to be really hard for me personally to get the picture of Vanderbilt just taking the belt to Tennessee to end the season. Like it's going to be hard for me to get that out of my head as we go into this one. Meanwhile, Iowa's kind of like, hey, if it rains or snows enough and we get super, super ugly, we can kind of make this a game. I ain't going to be like that in Tampa. So I think I'm tempted to go Vanderbilt pretty heavy here because, and again, like Diego Pavia, what a story, right? Like not even recruited, not a guy that was on anybody's radar. He's going to be in the Heisman ceremony. Like, I kind of hope he wins. I don't think he deserves to win personally, but I kind of hope he wins just because it'd be a lot of fun for him and for that story. But yeah, regardless of that, it's an awesome story. They're going to go out there with one more chance to really put on, and I think that they're going to have a lot of fun. It's going to be a big Vanderbilt win. I could see him winning this one by 40 points.
Yeah. Anything else kind of on your radar? Arizona State will be playing in the Tony the Tiger Sun Bowl without their starting quarterback, Sam Leavitt, who is apparently bailed on the team dinner to finish out the season. He's going to the portal. We talked about, obviously, we don't know if Michigan's going to play in this Cheez-It Citrus Bowl against Texas. That was going to be a really fun game, I think.
I was looking forward to that one.
Yeah, it was going to be one of the better bowl matchups now. We'll just have to wait and see. I think Nebraska is going to get waxed by Utah in the Las Vegas Bowl. Kind of clean out the junk drawer. Anything else that's on your radar here?
I think the big one's always the Cheez-It Citrus Bowl. I love the Cheez-It Bowl. I think it's so much fun. I'm curious if there's another wedding at halftime. Like I know that happened last year, so I'm going to be watching for that as well. Love the Sun Bowl. Sun Bowl's always fun. It's a great venue. That's one of those kind of overlooked venues because nobody really thinks about El Paso, and UTEP hasn't been a very good football team for a little while. But
no,
it's a good one, and obviously Duke and Arizona State, and that one's going to be great matchup. It's tough. I'm obviously watching the Mayo Bowl. Go watch Mississippi State and Wake Forest. It's a couple of teams that I think could be a lot better. And just kind of had a couple things not quite go their way. I know that Wake Forest kind of maybe overperformed a lot of people's expectations, but man, Mississippi State just could not get a break this year. It seemed like
a lot of close
games there, so many times. They almost had the upset like 4 times this season, just couldn't do it.
Yeah. Good game to close out bowl season officially as well. In the Holiday Bowl, SMU and Arizona should be a lot of fun, a good offensive matchup there as well. But
definitely.
Yeah, that'll do it, guys, for our Bowl Mania headlines. Obviously, we'll keep, talking Michigan and Sherrone Moore. I mean, as we've been recording tonight, be mainstream by tomorrow morning, just kind of sad details about that whole case. So unfortunate situation there. We'll see what Michigan ends up doing. But excited to get into this bowl season. We're going to be covering all the games. We're going to be in attendance in the press box for a couple of them here in the North Texas area. And obviously, you can follow along with us on Twitter. We will have my plan is, once again, I think this would be the 3rd straight year, to put out a matchup tweet for every single bowl game. As I mentioned, we'll have the full preview guide as well. So if you like college football content, you like bowl content, 3 Tech Pod is the place to be. For Garrett Turney, I'm Mitch Mason. Thanks so much for hanging out with us. Until next time, so long, everybody.